green jersey is the competition for the Tour's hourly paid workers, not just sprinters but hard men who come out every day to earn their points. And there are two ways to get them. At the finish, points are awarded on a sliding scale to the first 25 riders across the line. That's why we saw Eric Zabel and Robbie McEwen fighting for 6th place yesterday. It was worth 20 points. There are also points available out on the road at hotspot sprints. 6 for the first man under the banner, 4 for the second and 2 for the third. So while the yellow jersey holder can sit quietly in the bunch on flat stages and just keep an eye on his rivals, green jersey contenders can be out there working every stage. The hardest working man in bike business the last 6 years has been Eric Zabel, who's won a record half a dozen green jerseys in a row. Last year he held up a strong challenge from Stuart O'Grady. This year Robbie McEwen is trying to bring the run to an end, and he's outsprinted Zabel at the finish on the last 3 stages.
It's very close between Robbie and me, and also the other Australian riders like Cook and O'Grady are still in shape, and we see what's happened the next days.
So currently the points competition looks like this. Zabel's lead is down to just 2 points after Robbie McEwen outsprinted him yesterday. The impressive Baden Cook in his first tour is lying third, and yesterday's stage win has Jan Kursipu ahead of Stuart O'Grady for the moment. And the reason the next 3 days are so important is because after the time trial on stage 9, the Tour heads south to the mountains, and there the sprinters won't be earning any points, they'll be hanging on at the back. Now, one final thing about the green jersey competition, and it's this thing. Now, it doesn't look very dangerous. I mean, you'd struggle to hijack a plane with it, but according to the Tour organisation, this is an offensive weapon. The problem is that PMU, who sponsor the green jersey, distribute hundreds of these things every day, presumably so that fans can give the riders a big hand at the finish. Cue laughter from the studio audience. However, Robbie McEwen wasn't laughing the other day as the fans hung over the barrier and rants, waving these things in his path during the final sprint.
I got hit with a couple of those on the arm, got hit in the head by one, got a bit of skin off my arm, but yeah, well, scars, I mean, it's not too bad. I feel like a little school kid going, look, Mum, I hurt myself. But
I'm impressed.
But, you know, it's like, I'm doing 60-something k an hour and people are heading, I got another one on my shoulder, and lucky I had a helmet on, otherwise I could have a big one across my head. But, you know, I had to get away from the barriers then because I was scared that someone was going to hit me in the face with a hand and I'd lose it that way rather than someone riding past me, you know, on pure speed.
Well, there's the stage 6 route, just on 200 kilometres to Alençon, and there were a possible 53 green jersey points available, 6 apiece for winning the 3 hotspot sprints and 35 for winning the stage. Well, Robbie McEwen took the first 6, out-sprinting Zabel, who only picked up 2 points for third behind Jans Ferrada, and that 4-point swing meant McEwen was now the leader on the road in the green jersey competition by 2 points. A little before the first sprint had been the first crash of the day. David Miller was caught up in it and suffered cuts to his arms and legs, but he got back on and rejoined the main bunch.
Well, Eric is a brilliant competitor. He will not take defeat lightly. There's McEwen, though. He's just passed out of view, but he's over to the left of our picture, about 4 men down. I've noticed Frere is there as well, and also Baden Cook is right tucked in too, very close to Eric Zabel. The 3 Aussies are ganging up on him again. What a superb approach to line this is by the stars of the Tour. Here comes Ludo Dierksens now. McEwen checks himself in the centre screen there. Baden Cook is also off to the left of our picture, to the right of McEwen. The peloton are out of it now, and glad to be, I think. This is a vicious finish today. Dierksens has got the front. Danilo Honda looks over his shoulder. He's looking for the whereabouts of Zabel as the sprint now starts, and this is going to be a very, very difficult sprint. It's Fabio Baldato trying for the run here now. He hasn't got the legs. Very, very sharp right-hander. Honda round in second place. Zabel not quite there on the train just yet as our camera tries to catch up now. Baldato in trouble, I think. This is going to be the final run for the line now. It's the champion of Germany leading out here. Then it'll be Gian Matteo Fognini. Zabel is there in 4th place. The left of the picture, Teddy Agricole is trying now. Robbie McEwen has got the wheel, but watch out for Frere. Frere is on the wheel of Zabel. Zabel is leading out the world champion. McEwen is trying on the left. McEwen and Zabel. This is going to be McEwen again. Right on the line. Zabel has got him. Zabel has taken him on the line. And that is how you say, I'm still in this bike race.
So Eric Zabel, who started the day in green by just 2 points, finished in green by 7 after a short detour into second place out on the road.
I must say I'm very happy now to win a stage on this way. But I think you are right. Robbie McEwen is from the wheel, mostly from my wheel, one of the fastest guys. This year it's very hard for me to win when I start in front.
As we indicated at the top of the show, all that excitement left the race for the yellow jersey completely untouched. Well, there's today's obstacle course, 176 kilometres from Bagnoles de l'Orne to Avranches. A couple of fourth category climbs along the way, and another 53 possible points on offer for the sprinters in the green jersey competition. In yellow for the third day, Igor Gonzalez de Galtiano, of course, would have a full complement of ONCE bodyguards, including the man in second place behind him, Joseba Belocchi. Well, today's escape committee was three strong: Anthony Morin of Credit Agricole, Domo's Léon Van Bon, and Frank Renier of the Bonjour team. Between them, they built up a lead of more than 5 minutes, and in the process mopped up all the intermediate sprints, so no change in the green jersey competition out on the road. No competition at all for the strangest shot of the day, David Echevarria working on his aerodynamics in advance of the time trial. And it might have had something to do with the second strangest shot, because it came just after Echevarria got a 25-mile-an-hour peck on the cheek from Roberto Laiseca. The first crash of the day wasn't a serious one, but it left Jonathan Vaughters seriously adrift of the bunch, because his bike was more seriously damaged than he was.
Alessio driving the race on here now. Telecom willing to work, hoping that Zabel can have those aging legs of his and the more stamina than the lesser aging legs of Oscar Freire and Robbie McEwen in the sprint. There's a crash. There's a crash. And this again is a situation.
Let's have a look and see if any of the riders who are high in the overall standings have been caught out. Number 12 there for Team Telecom is Rolf Aldag. He's a big worker. Again there, Christoph Agneluto, AG2R number 182. He is down. It looks as if there's a large, tall Credit Agricole rider. That may be Jonathan Vaughters, again having a bad day.
Lampre's gone Paul, Marco Serpellini, and there's somebody
the world champion Freire
is down. Oscar Freire has taken a very nasty fall. Now this is a man whose whole career has been dogged by physical problems, and this is extremely sad, and it is back again. It is back that has given him the problems in the past. There's somebody else right underneath him from Lampre down there.
Well, he just popped his head up for the last minute. That
ditch is rather deeper than it appears, it seems. A lot of riders are down here and delayed.
Oh, and Christophe Moreau, 61, is down as well. This is bad. There's Jonathan Vaughters. Stewie O'Grady is there as well, I think, on the left-hand side. You can see that a lot of men have gone down. Frederic Bessy, number 52. The Credit Agricole riders all here waiting for their leader, and Christophe Moreau, I think, more dejected psychologically here, Phil, than anything else.
But just how many Credit Agricole riders fell down? Because I don't think they're waiting for, I think they must have been almost all riding together as they crashed. Obviously Moreau is down, looking very cool and collected. The rider on the right, Roger Leger, won't believe this, attending all of his team. Freire looks as though he might be on his way, but he's back, and this is a serious problem for Oscar. His back has been a problem, and now he looks as though he's given a real good clout in that ditch.
Well, he's a man I thought would be capable of getting up this climb towards the finish, and that is going to change the complete physiognomy of the race finish here right now, because he's a tough guy at the end of the day. Moreau is up and riding. There's a guy down on the ground there, and I think that is Didier Rousse, in fact. It is Didier Rousse, the former national champion of France. He's been involved in several crashes since the start, and this one doesn't look too good. The way he's holding his arm there right now, it looks as if it might be a collarbone problem there.
Well, 3 days running, let's hope that's the end of it. Now as we leave them behind, desperate straight to the front as well. The latest gap is 18 seconds. Anthony Morin won't know. Half of his team, not half, 3/4, are all lying on the road at a couple of kilometres behind him. Leon Van Bon has gone to the front. He may as well try something, because they're coming very, very close.
Another crash at the back,
sounds like another crash call.
That we're getting all this information from Race Radio, the Race Referees channel. This is in French. And you can see these guys now raising the white flag. And in fact, Jalabert has gone down, number 51. So again, chaos. And there are a lot of US Postal jerseys there too. This is a big rider.
Well, they've got Ekimov down nearest, and Ekimov is looking after Armstrong.
Has gone down as well. He's not crashed, but he had a slight problem here. This is number 1. This is the defending champion right now. He's inside 2.5 kilometers to go. Armstrong is up and riding. The race referee's car is by him. This is why the Tour de France over the first 10 days is so very dangerous and precarious. There was Georgie Hincapie, but you know what? Armstrong is going to fly up through this field. He looked all right to me. There was no problem to his bike at all. And here's the last-minute attack.
Well, Armstrong has got to get on because he'll lose time here. This race will be split time today.
Look at this. US Postal Service today are being asked by Lance Armstrong to pull him back into the main peloton. Danilo Hondo on the front there in the white jersey. The yellow jersey, Igor Gonzalez de Galdiano, was very front. There's a lot of pressure at the back because Lance Armstrong has been involved in an incident just a few moments ago. 3 of those guys have been pulled back into the fold, but there's a move going off the front right now by Mapeo. Lance Armstrong apparently 15 seconds behind the main peloton at the moment.
Well, this looks like Pedro Jarillo is trying to slip away here for the Mapei team. I might well surprise us with a surprise. Brad McGee there in second place. It is going, the sprint has been spoiled here by this hill for sure of 400 meters, and I think this is Pedro Jarillo, and if it is, and it doesn't matter who it is, it's a Mapei rider who's going to get the sprint as he's being closed in by Bradley McGee. McGee is trying to reach him. He was the man that's supposed to lead out Baden Cook, but he's too strong. I think McGee might get his stage win here because he's closing very, very quickly. Pedro Jarillo is beginning to crack as the sprint is starting behind now. And as they kick behind, it looks as though McGee is going to get the victory of his life. Bradley McGee, the Australian, takes it on the line. And what an incredible result that was. Well, Australia have got the win, but by the man we didn't really expect it to. He was supposed to lead out Baden Cook, and he rode the field off his wheel.
So the yellow jersey competition, which was supposed to be in hibernation until the time trial, is suddenly all activity and time gaps. In fact, it's all on say. They've got the top 7 places now, with Lance Armstrong slipping back to 8th, 34 seconds behind Igor Gonzalez de Galdiano.
I can't believe this is the biggest thing ever. Yeah, I can't believe it.
It was the biggest disappointment ever for Pedro Jarillo, who thought he'd timed his burst to the line perfectly, only to deflate in the last 10 metres when he turned and saw McGee powering past him.
Hombre, pues sí, yo creo que las fuerzas las tengo como para ganar una etapa, pero las circunstancias nunca sabes cómo son, ¿no? Y desde luego la circunstancia era favorable para mí y para desgracia de Óscar, pues esa caída suya pues me ha favorecido a mí, ¿no? Y he tratado de intentarlo y la verdad es que tengo una desilusión tremenda ahora mismo porque lo he visto tan cerca que es mejor no verlo tan cerca para no llevarte esa desilusión.
The word on Armstrong, by the way, is that he didn't actually come off in the crash, just got blocked by a teammate who did. The word from the US Postal Camp is that he'll be fit for what should be a fascinating showdown.
Well, the papers, of course, are full of all of the crashes which are affecting the destiny of the riders in this race at the moment. We're losing most of the riders because of broken bones right now. This is Oscar Freire, and as you say, he's now out of the race, and that's really sad. And, of course, Lance Armstrong gets the inside page because it's the first time in 4 years, Paul, that he's been involved in any sort of an accident.
Well, he's ridden well over the last few years, kept himself out of all kinds of incident and accident, but in fact he didn't properly crash yesterday. It was his teammate Roberto Heras who fell onto his back wheel. Heras's handlebars were caught in the wheel of Armstrong. Armstrong had to put his foot on the ground, was delayed but managed to get up and started riding again, but I think a little bit more scared than anything else.
Yeah, well, he lost 27 seconds, not a disaster, but it just shows you how easily you can lose the Tour de France.
Today's stage was the 3rd longest of the Tour, just over 217 kilometres, with 3 4th category climbs, and like yesterday, the last of them on the run-in, which was likely to make things interesting. Big crowds out for Bastille Day, and the big guns were out for the first intermediate sprint. Robbie McEwen beat Eric Zabel to it, and that cut the Germans' lead in the points competition to 3. The first successful attack of the day had 7 men in it, 3 Frenchmen, 3 Dutchmen, and a Latvian. That was Raives Belavoschiks. The French riders were all from different teams, Stéphane Auge of De La Tour, Bonjour's Frank Renier, and Sébastien Hinault of Crédit Agricole. But it was the Dutch who made the break interesting. Rabobank's Eric Dekker, who'd won stage 8 in the past 2 tours, his young teammate Karsten Kroon, and his arch-rival Servace Knaven of the Domo team. As we join it, they're simultaneously trying to psych each other out and stay away from the chasing pack.
Another attack. It looks like it's gone again. It could well be Knaven who's gone. This long line of people just seeing a wonderful race here, and they're now a kilometre to go. To forget the race behind, they're racing now for 8th place in the peloton.
Well, Frank Renier's been the aggressive man of the Tour de France so far. He's the most aggressive bike rider in the event since we left Luxembourg. There are 3 Dutchmen in this group right now. The leading group is 7 men strong. They have thrown absolute caution to the wind this afternoon. They've launched attack after attack, and it is finally going to come down to a sprint for the line. But Milosevic is on the left-hand side. He's gone, and I think he might have hit them hard.
Well, he's gone again off to the left. Decker's hooked up to his wheel. Who else would it be? Frank Renier, the most aggressive rider of the Tour in his first Tour de France, is riding 3rd wheel, and he's looking very promising. They call him the Spider-Man. Well, he's got everybody in his web. Can he get them out of it? Because leading up to the line now is Milosevic. Now comes Decker. On the left of the picture is Eno now. And Eno and Decker, where is he finding the strength from? As this is going to be a tight sprint. Is it a successful day for Decker? My goodness me, no. It is Carsten Kroon, his teammate. That is an immense result.
So González de Galdeano will take a lead of 34 seconds over Armstrong into tomorrow's individual time trial, probably the most important day of his career.
Sí, una cita con el destino y con la contrarreloj. Una contrarreloj importante para mí, para todo el equipo y para los adversarios también.
Igor, más de medio minuto le separa de Armstrong. Primera cosa, ¿usted cree que usted puede ganar el contrarreloj? Segunda cosa, 37 segundos creo que le separa de Armstrong. ¿Van a ser suficientes para darle el jersey amarillo en las montañas?
Suficiente, no sé. Yo creo que yo intentaré hacer una buena contrarreloj. El problema es que Armstrong también es muy bueno en la contrarreloj. Incluso hasta ahora en el Tour ha sido el mejor. Tanto es una incertidumbre. Yo espero hacer la buena y a partir de ahí veremos el resultado.
No hiding in the bunch today. In fact, no hiding at all. It's the individual time trial.
Well, this is it. This is the bike that Lance Armstrong will use in the individual time trial, and strangely enough, it weighs in quite heavy at 9 kilos. But for Armstrong, the most important thing is not weight. It's aerodynamics and rigidity. Like most of these bikes, it's made nearly all of carbon fibre, the tubes thick and flat to cut into the wind. US Postal Service even have a fin that goes right under the saddle to reduce any friction with the wind at the back end of the machine. Armstrong has opted for a full disc wheel. That way the turbulence at the back end is reduced to a minimum. The gears he's going to use are immense, 56 or a 55 tooth chainring at the front and an 11 tooth sprocket at the back. Also at the front he's going to have a carbon fibre wheel, but this will have very thick rims and 3 spokes. They've tried to make this machine as aerodynamic as possible, and even the cables here for the brakes and the gears go right inside the tubes and come out wherever necessary. But it's the front end of the bike where the rider becomes more aerodynamic. He gets down onto these bars. Although these brakes don't look very good, they'll work very nicely going around the corners. But this is where aerodynamics comes to perfection, right down here in the middle. And I spoke to Chris Carmichael, Lance's coach. He told me Armstrong had been working very hard on the abs and the back to keep him in that aerodynamic position for longer. Hopefully on the long drags uphill, he will gain time over all of his rivals.
Well, perhaps more decisive than the inclines on this time trial route would be the home stretch, 17 or so kilometres along the Brittany coast with the wind whipping in off the sea. The best early time of 1 hour, 2 minutes and 43 seconds was set by Hungary's Laszlo Bedrogi. When Raimundas Rumsas came up the line within metres of catching 2 earlier starters, it looked as though he might have beaten it. But as it turned out, he slipped into second by 1/10 of a second. As we join it though, Santiago Botero of Calme and Colombia is setting all the best split times.
This is really beginning to warm up as the top riders come out firing on all cylinders. Huge crowd shouting them along here now as Botero is heading up now for the other Czech here. He should be just outside 1-2, 1-2-10 or something like that as he comes up to the line. If he's held on to all of his gains out on the course and added a couple of seconds more. He still looks very, very good here. And this is a man, king of the mountains of the Tour de France, who is now looking for a high finish in Paris as well. It is looking very good. 1:2:43 to beat, and he surely has done that. But he's not thinking of what Bedrogi has done or Rumsas. He's just afraid of what Armstrong will do behind him. So he needs the best time possible here as he races up to the line. Well, the time I thought has just gone by. He too has found this last 6 kilometres a bit of a problem, but it's still best time. 1:2:18 for Santiago Botero.
Well, this is the man who everyone wants to see what kind of performance he's going to put in this afternoon. Over the last 9 time trials that have been at the Tour de France, Lance Armstrong has won 7 of them.
He's aiming for his 13th stage win in a Tour de France. If he gets it today, it certainly will be lucky for him, because no cyclist currently racing has won more stages in a Tour de France. There are 3 riders, Cipollini, Zabel and Armstrong, all on 12 wins. Now, here's the big news. Sergei Honchar heading up towards the finish now. He was 8 seconds behind Santiago Botero with 6 kilometres to go. Has he kept those legs punching out this enormous pedalling gear? He certainly looks as though he's moving with some speed now. He's looking to do a time of 1:2:18 if he's going to get it, but I don't think he is, Paul. That time, I think, has slipped away. Yes, it has. It has. So Honchar coming in at the moment. He should hang on to second best time. Little bit more of a sprint, Sergei. You're not quite there. As he comes up to the line, it's going to be a longer one than he anticipated. 1:2:36 for the moment. Second place for the former world time trial champion.
The problem
on the course, Jalabert, a problem with his bike as well as his helmet. Here's the situation replayed for you. Now, Paul, is it a flat tyre? I think the way he stopped it must be.
Well, he's trying to take the back wheel, but in fact it's going to take too long, and the mechanic is going to come up as quickly as possible. It looks as if he's got that stuck in there. You see, he's actually trying to unscrew that himself, and this is a very slow change for Laurent Jalabert. This is the problem with the aerodynamic bikes. The wheels and the quick release skewers have to be tightened down, and the mechanic has gone back to the car right now. This has lost Laurent Jalabert pretty close to 45 seconds right now. The spare machine is up there and running, but you know, that really breaks the rhythm once something like that happens.
The leader of the Tour de France, 5 days in yellow, Igor Gonzalez de Galdeano, is now underway. And Armstrong, looking for a 13th stage win in a Tour de France, is keeping the rhythm going over that little rise. And once he smells the finish, he will squeeze that little bit more out of his body. And Igor Gonzalez de Galdeano is still the man in yellow, and he is over half distance of the time trial. So I think it's safe to assume, Paul, unless he completely cracks up, he's going to keep the race lead tonight.
By a few seconds, I would think, and it's going to be pretty dramatic then the first days in the mountains, because we may well be looking at a huge Spanish attack.
There's the clock for you to see now and counting. Lance Armstrong is very close to the first or second in the time trial. He would want it to be first as he comes up to the line now. The clock is going to tell him he is not going to win the time trial. Santiago Botero has got a great scalp here as Armstrong comes up to the line. In fact, he's conceded a little bit more time on the approach to the line. As Armstrong comes up, he will be 10 seconds down. 1:2:29 for Armstrong.
Well, at that point, the sheer drama of the day overloaded the French television circuits, and the climax of the stage was lost to the world's live broadcasters. In fact, these are the only pictures of Igor Gonzalez de Galdeano crossing the line. It didn't affect the result, though. He came in with a time of 1:02:37, good enough for fourth and good enough to keep him in the yellow jersey. So Santiago Botero hands Lance Armstrong his first defeat in a Tour de France time trial for 4 years to take a dramatic Stage 9 win.
I can't lie and say I'm not disappointed with today, because I am a little disappointed, but Anyways, here we go. Sí, bueno, la verdad es un sueño. Eso lo decía yo antes de que pasara Lance y nada, eso te da una motivación y una alegría inmensa porque son muchos meses preparando este tour y bueno, es muy bonito tanto para el equipo como para... Thank you, David. Es muy bonito para nosotros y bueno, a Lance que está muy bien, entonces más mérito aún ganarle a él y igual a Igor.
The only way to win is to take back time, and the only way to take back time is to well, there's two ways. Either they crack and lose time, or you have a great day and attack and make up time. So we'll see how things go.
Stage 10 here to Pau was a warm-up day, really, for the big action in the Pyrenees, which begins tomorrow. Last chance for the sprinters and the breakaway merchants to grab a bit of glory before the going gets seriously diagonal. Pau, last stop before the mountains, which meant it was the last real chance for the opportunists to stage an escape and for the sprinters to pick up any big points. 35 on offer for the stage win on a flat stage and 3 intermediate sprints along the way with 6, 4 and 2 points for the first 3 riders under the banner. Well, Eric Zabel started the day just 2 points ahead of Robbie McEwen in the green jersey competition, and at the first sprint McEwen beat him into second place with Stuart O'Grady a very close third. That meant McEwen and Zabel were now level on points. There was a momentary frisson on race radio when word came through that Gonzalez de Galdiano had abandoned, but it was Igor's brother Alvaro who'd been struggling with a thigh injury. There's only one Botero in the race though, and he dropped off the back early in the stage with a puncture before a couple of Kelme teammates helped pace him back to the bunch. On the rest day, the great Laurent Jalabert had announced that he was quitting at the end of the season. For the second stage running, his bike decided to take early retirement. In fact, he got through 3 by the end of the stage. And it was a blisteringly fast stage, which was surprising for the day before the Pyrenees. Finally, after several failed efforts, a break of 11 riders, though, did manage to get away. In it was Stuart O'Grady, who took second place at the second sprint and first place at the third. Not enough to challenge the leaders. Handy points in the bag for the man who'd started the day 4th in the green jersey competition.
So there's the 4 leaders. Good wide roads now as we course our way into Pau. That senior rival of the Tour de France on so many occasions, always giving us a great winner.
And there's a move, and it's coming by Algon. Algon trying to surprise everybody. They need to respond. O'Grady's waiting for somebody else. This is a dangerous thing to do.
Well, somebody's got to go, and he might have done it here with 8 to go because O'Grady looked and didn't react. Now they've got to sort it out. They've got time to go and recover. They've forced Dirksen to take up the chase. Interesting to note, Paul, that the Frenchman, Pinot, made absolutely no effort to go and chase down a Frenchman on a rival team. Watch this now. A perfect choice off the back wheel of Dirksen's. Waited till O'Grady was on the front. Dirksen's in the best position to respond and didn't. The Frenchman had no intention of responding, and the one man he feared, Stuart O'Grady, was in the right position, or in O'Grady's case, the wrong position when he put the attack in.
This man is pedaling with absolute urgency, trying to survive. He stretches his advantage right now. The last time check we got was 15 seconds over the race radio. These long, slight uphill drags into the outskirts of Pau will shortly be put behind him when he comes onto the finishing place here in the Place de Verdun.
As we now look at the 3 chasers coming under 3 kilometers to go, and if anything, they're losing ground to Patrice Algon. The last time check for the peloton we got was 4 minutes and 28 seconds. And we do believe that Echeverria is still ahead of them and racing for what would be, in effect, the last place of the breakaway on the day, which would be 11th. This rider, though, is thinking of first, and he has got it all under control. 28 years of age, fairly late on, he turned pro as a roadman in 1995, and he's now going to add a win in the Tour de France. There's a few last turns before he enters the Place de Verdun, and that'll be for him the end of today's stage of the Tour. But this is going to be his victory now. Patrice Algon is sprinting for the first French win of this year's Tour de France. He read it well, and he deserves it, because he made the attack that shaped the final 4-man escape on the last climb of the Côte d'Auja. He won all of the climbs today. He's gone second in the King of the Mountains. He doesn't matter about that. He is the winner of the stage in Pau and the first Frenchman to do it. Now O'Grady could do his second place, but they're letting the youngest Frenchman get the lead here. Frank Pino at 22 years of age. The French can't go wrong today. It's going to be a 1-2, Paul. As Frank Pino now, the young man, he's looking over his shoulder. He doesn't believe it. He's annoyed because he isn't winning, but he can't believe he's finished second. And if you're wondering why Stuart O'Grady didn't respond to Algon's attack, well, here's his answer.
You ever ridden a road race? Legs are burning, everyone's the same, you know. The first one to attack is always going to take the edge off the other ones, and straight away, you know, you go into negative thinking, and I was trying to get the guys to really pull along, and that's racing, you know.
This is going to be a very, very tight sprint indeed. Men are moving all over the road here. On the left of our picture now, Brad McGee has swung off as Baden Cook starts to go for the line now. Zabel is coming too. Robbie McEwen is onto Zabel's wheel. This is going to be touch and go here, but I think Baden Cook, no. McEwen on the line, very, very close. He might well have got 2 places over Zabel, Paul, but there's no doubt about one thing. The Australian McEwen, for the first time, has got the green jersey for himself today.
It was a good day for O'Grady, up into 3rd in the points competition too, but a better one for his Aussie rival Robbie McEwen, who now leads the green jersey race by a single point from Eric Zabel.
This is what I've been working for the last few days, and you know, a few days ago, about 4 days ago, I was virtual green on the road, and then at the finish I lost a few points through finishing 3rd when Eric won, and it took me another 4 days after that to get back on level terms. And now I knew I had to beat him here at the finish, and I was able to do that and take a 1-point lead. So it's an honour to be able to wear the green jersey in the Tour, and now we hit the mountains and the fun starts.
Today marked the start of the Tour Mark II as the race hit the Pyrenees in the certain knowledge that the Pyrenees would retaliate. Stage 11 would be the first big test for the men chasing Lance Armstrong's title, and of course for Armstrong himself. You know, there aren't many races that are improved by being slowed down. As a general rule in sport, faster is better. In cycling, though, suffering beats speed, and nothing produces more suffering and more spectacle than the Alps and the Pyrenees, which is where we are today. Now, of course, the strongest man in the mountains the past 3 years has been the strongest man overall, Lance Armstrong, and he didn't get that way just by eating his shredded wheat. While most riders are just getting out of winter training and into their first races of the year, Lance Armstrong is already riding the Tour, or at least what he considers to be the key stages of it. By the time the race starts for real, he'll have ridden climbs like today's maybe half a dozen times. God help anything that gets in his way, whether it's an avalanche or the advice of his team manager.
Lance, we're going with the car to until where you can ride, to prepare your clothes and some tea and stuff.
Okay.
Okay?
What if I keep going?
You can't.
Huh?
You cannot. 3 meters of snow. The guy says you can. There's no way you can ride. There's no way.
Who says that?
It's, in my opinion, essential to know the courses, and not just to be able to say, yes, I know what the Ventoux looks like, or yes, I know what La Mongie or Plateau de Bay or La Plagne looks like, because I've done it before. We did it in the Tour in '93. I was there, I did it. It's not the same. The approaches are different, the roads have changed. You know, the climbs you do before are most likely not in the same order that you did them in '93. So it's important to go and see it exactly the way it is. And then second of all, and maybe even more importantly, is it's fantastic training. To spend 4 or 5 days there with such climbing and such hard days, in my opinion, is one way to improve.
No rider in history has prepared for the Tour with Armstrong's zeal and attention to detail, and the benefits can obviously be seen on the podium in Paris. But once you realise what he's doing, they're noticeable on the road too. When Armstrong attacks, like he attacked Jan Ullrich on Alpe d'Huez last year, it's in the knowledge of exactly where he is on the stage and what difficulties lie between him and the finish line. Not to diminish Armstrong's natural talent, but it's that kind of knowledge that can make the difference between winning and losing. And there's only one way to acquire it.
I think I want to ride a little more, you know? Why don't you do another 10 kilometers of uphill? I'll go down 10K and come back. Pay attention, eh? That's what it takes to win the Tour. What? Training in this weather. Nobody sees that.
We were about to see the results of it, though, on a route that took the riders over the second most climbed mountain in Tour history, the Col d'Aubisque, and finished partway up the most climbed of the lot, the Tourmalet. Along the way, just 2 green jersey sprints for any sprinters who still had the legs to take them on. The first attack came early, 13 kilometres, and in the break was Laurent Jalabert, who quickly left the others behind to ride over the Col d'Aubisque on his own. It looked very reminiscent of a stage in the Pyrenees last year, when Jalabert made an heroic break, only to be overhauled by Lance Armstrong on the way to Pla d'Adet. Of course, Lance is too businesslike to believe in omens, but nonetheless, it was Postal doing all the work at the front of a medium-sized chasing group that also contained the yellow jersey and his other big rivals. Telecom were doing some chasing too, with Robbie McEwen struggling at the back. They were hoping to keep their man Eric Zabel at the front for just long enough to get some points at the second sprint of the day. Having gone up the Col d'Aubisque and the Col de Soulor, a couple of riders came down heavily. Jens Voigt of Credit Agricole and the winner of Stage 7, Bradley McGee, who'd left a couple of sponsors' logos on the tarmac in exchange for some nasty-looking road burn. As we join the action, Jalabert is still out front and hoping to avoid a rerun of last year's Pyrenean adventure.
Well, Jalabert riding hopefully to a stage win, if not the race lead, because that's gone, I think, for him. That wasn't his main intention of the day. It was, of course, to get a stage win, and also by virtue of the fact he's ahead and gets maximum points at the finish, he would also be pulling on the jersey as leader of the King of the Mountains. A beautiful sunny day, a lone leader in the Tour de France. The latest gap is 3 minutes and 19 seconds for the rider out front. Laurent Jalabert has held them without gaining or losing a second for so many kilometers now, and he still looks as though he's struggling, but let's hope that he will make it up that valley there to at least the finishing line, which today, thankfully, I would suggest now for Laurent Jalabert, is only 2/3 of the way up the Col de Tourmalet.
I tell you what, that was a beautiful backdrop, Phil, and one that I used to get very scared of when I was a bike rider, because when you saw the mountain starting to close around you, you knew there was only one way out, and that was up. And that's what all of these bike riders are thinking about right now. For Lance Armstrong, after the individual time trial a couple of days ago, this is his first real rendezvous at the Tour de France. He's laid his foundations for victory over the last 3 years in the mountains more than anywhere else, and it's nearly always been on the first day in the mountains. I think that tactic may change today, because I have a feeling Armstrong will wait for tomorrow's stage, which is a lot longer, with a lot more repetition of climbing to do. But the one man who wants to stay as close to possible to him is there in the yellow jersey, is Igor Gonzalez de Galdeano. At the start of the day, they were separated by 26 seconds.
Well, we're looking at Laurent Jalabert, this wonderful cyclist from France who's ridden so well today. He's such a brilliant, aggressive bike rider. I'm not sure he can hang on to the finishing line. We all hope he can. Looking now, he's at 3 minutes 11 seconds. He is 20 kilometers or 12 miles from the finishing line. So close, and it's a desperate moment. 3 minutes 15 seconds for Laurent Jalabert. Looking better, I think, now than he was about 15 miles ago. Well, this is the Valley of Campon, and the beautiful little town of Santa Marie de Campon has its place in the annals of the Tour de France. It was here in 1913 when Eugene Christophe came off the mountain, ready to climb up the next one, had broken his forks, and in the local forge, he asked somebody to work the bellows while he repaired his own bicycle forks. And to get any assistance in those days was not allowed. He was disqualified from the Tour when he was the leader. And the fact the forge is now part of a museum in that town.
That's an incredible story, but this is the area where the history and the legends of the Tour de France have always been made. The mountains are so dramatic. They're dramatic as a backdrop, and they're also dramatic as a racing terrain, as Laurent Jalabert knows so well. He's raced well in the Pyrenees in the past, and last year did a similar escapade to this through the Pyrenees and tried to get himself the win at the top of the summit of the Pla d'Ardèche. But unfortunately, he wasn't able to do anything against the return to the top of Lance Armstrong on that day.
And 20 kilometers to go for the US Postal-led peloton containing the Maillot Jaune. And the stars of Kelme here too, by the way, Botero and Sevilla. There's little Sevilla. Babyface himself, Christophe Moreau, nearest camera in the green. Behind him is Bobby Julich, who's looking good today, Bobby. The sun is now coming off the right shoulder of this great French rider, Laurent Jalabert. The gap, 3 minutes, 25 seconds. He's pushing it out again. This man never knows the words give up. He will fight to the end.
Well, he's around about 4 kilometers now from the real start of the final climb of the day. The final climb of the day is 12.8 kilometers. The average gradient only works out at 7%. But I think as we get closer to the summit is where it is its steepest part, and there the average gradient is 10%, and that's where it will really start to kick in, and the pain will start to appear in the riders' minds.
This is the lovely town now of Santa Marie de Campon, where Eugene Christophe once snapped his forks and was then disqualified because he got somebody to work the bellows while he forged a new pair. That's not justice, but that was in 1913. The rules were different then.
Well, the rules were different then. These men have cars that follow behind to change their machines, and it's a much slicker organisation that the teams have than the early teams when riders used to sleep at the side of the road. And there's some great stories, if you ever want to read the history of the Tour de France, of men actually being kidnapped to try and stop them winning the Tour de France, and being set upon in the night as they tried to ride through the mountain passes. None of that goes on now, I don't think.
So Laurent Jalabert now has only one thing on his mind. That's the climb, which is directly ahead of him. He is holding and slightly gaining. 3 minutes 20 seconds. So he just keeps it in that 5-second window. These boys keep the steady tempo going. Rubiera, number 9 there, the big rider from Spain, all now ready to ride alongside Lance Armstrong. Little rush of Rabobank riders there because Levi Leipheimer is here and looking good, so he may have informed the riders to put him in a good position as they start the assault on the finishing climb. Igor Gonzalez de Galdiano and his teammate Yoshida Bolocki is down there side by side. Bolocki's been off, he's on a different bike. In fact, he changed his bike in the end, and you can see he's got no number on his frame now. So he's got rid of all his problems, he hopes, for the day. His only problem now, where's number 1 in this race, Lance Armstrong. Just 10 kilometers to go. This is an heroic performance today.
Well, he hasn't lost anything at all, and this is really very impressive, because bear in mind, this man, Phil, was attacking after just 15 kilometers of racing today. As soon as the race came out of the blocks, Jalabert was looking for the move. He's equipped his bike with very special wheels today. They're aerodynamic wheels. These wheels were put on for a special reason. The reason was he wanted to get himself off the front and try and do a special exploit in the Pyrenees for what is possibly his last attempt at the Tour de France, because he's told the world that he will retire at the end of this year, and he's doing a great ride and still holding on. I'm sure the accelerations must come, but they won't come, I don't think, until we get to the steeper part of the climb.
Right, because at the moment you may have noticed Jalabert still had his chain on the big chain wheel, pedaling a heavy gear indeed, and not the sort of gear that he will pedal very, very shortly. Here is Zabel. Inspired ride today. He's dropping off the back now with Aldag, joined Bab Magri, Christophe Mongeon, Patrice Algon. They're all off the back now as it gets really, really tough. And Laszlo Bodrogi was the other Mappe rider there, who was part of the original escape earlier on. They've all called it quits on the climb now. They've stepped aside as the big players have started to turn the screw that little bit tighter. And it's the boys of US Postal who are mounting the pace. Still over 3 minutes for Jalabert, 3 minutes 10 seconds. He can tick the kilometers off now. He's in single digits. Unfortunately, the last 6 kilometers are at 1 in 10 or 10%.
That's painful, that is hard. Laurent Jalabert has got to do something very special to survive today, Phil, because he's been on the attack for over 130 kilometers.
The shoulder's just rocking a little bit, and this is Laurent Brochard here. Well, I never saw him come back into the race. He was dropped on the obese. He must have done, but now I think he's going back again from the leading group. So he did a fair ride to get back into a position to even be left behind by the peloton today. Looking down at the selection being made here now, a lot of riders have dropped away off the tail of this group, including, unfortunately, Bradley McGee. He wouldn't have been dropped if he hadn't have been injured on the descent of the fall of the descent rather, after a fall on the Col de Soulor. And another rider going off the back here, looks as though it's Michael Bogarts. So he's gone, and this is David Miller, so he was in there, but sadly, the first time we see him, he is losing contact from the bunch.
Well, he's having a hard time. It must be difficult to keep hold of the handlebars with that rib that's giving him a lot of pain, a problem with his intercostal muscles, and when you get into a big race like the Tour de France, no extra pain is required at all, and it's a pity to see that David Miller is going off the back there. He had said to us before the start of the Tour de France that he had lost a bit of his time trialling ability, Phil, because he'd specially trained for the big mountain stages. On the first day of the mountains, he's losing contact with the Lance Armstrong group.
Yes, and not a big group, not just a selection of a handful of riders, which doesn't all well perhaps, but we'll see and hope. As we now see Jalabert continuing, he's still holding a 3-minute advantage. The bunch had just gone under that 10-kilometre banner, 6 miles, as he is still about 1.5 kilometres, probably a full mile ahead on the road. The Spanish supporters here to cheer on their men, still saving something for this wonderful Frenchman. He's suffering now like he's probably, well, I won't say like he's never suffered before, because he always tries to the top of his ability.
He knows what it's like to suffer. He's been through this so many times in a 14-year career, turning professional back in 1989. 4 stage victories in the Tour de France. Most of those have been on the flat days. 2 times he's won himself the stage on the 14th of July, Bastille Day, but this would be a great victory for him if he can hold them off today. I don't think US Postal Service, Phil, are actually trying to pull him back. They're just setting a nice steady tempo on the front. Armstrong, I feel his tactics are he's waiting to see what the others are going to do on this first day in the mountains.
I couldn't agree more, and Armstrong's team have been the team of the day. They've controlled this race from the start. They've kept the race leader on the defensive, looking for a way out of the box in which they've placed him. And while up here, this man isn't going to be the race leader by the end of the day, but with a small time gap, let's hope he can hang on to take the honours, because he's certainly been the man who deserves them today. Laurent Jalabert was the highest placed Frenchman, and I think he still is the highest placed Frenchman overall. Starting the day 4 minutes and 18 seconds down. If he can finish 1.5 minutes ahead, he'd be in the top 5 riders in the Tour anyway.
Well, the French have a good word to describe this kind of bike rider, the man we've been looking at for most of the afternoon, Laurent Jalabert. They call him a guerrier, which means a warrior, and he certainly is a warrior of the Tour de France, because he's gone out on the attack on so many occasions. We're now looking at Lance's men. That was Rubiera just going through. Armstrong still looking calm and collected. Roberto Heras is just behind him. Heras, a former winner of the Tour of Spain. He actually has had a serious problem with his calf over the last few days. The man who wears the yellow jersey must be wondering exactly what is going to happen. Levi Leipheimer, 3rd overall in the Tour of Spain last year, the leader of the Rabobank squad right now, and formerly he used to ride alongside the men in blue because he raced for US Postal last year.
There was no place for him in the team this year, because he has become a leader in his own right after that brilliant ride in the Tour of Spain last year. Now it's his first time in the Tour de France, and this a big test day for him. Back to the man who just wants to survive and get it over with. He's an old hand in the Tour de France. He's had the coloured jerseys, every one of them on his shoulders at some time or another. And the 2 he's kept all the way to Paris, the King of the Mountains and the green jersey as best sprinter. There aren't many cyclists in the world ever won the 2 extremes of the competitions.
Definitely not, but this man has done that, and he's also won himself the Tour of Spain as well, and he's won so many stages in that unbelievable bike race, and he's been able to win himself different kinds of races from the very start of the season in February right the way through to the end of the year.
George Hincapie doing a superb job today as he keeps the pace up at the front, being followed here by Rubiera. And then Heras, the little climbers now, look how lithe they are there. They just seem to dance on the pedals when they get out of the saddle. They've got no excess body weight whatsoever, as we now see other riders moving up. And one we should watch out for, Paul, he crashed out last year when he broke his collarbone, is Ivan Basso.
Well, he's in the white jersey there for Faso Bortolo, just on the right-hand side. This is happening at the rear. There is Yatislav Ekimov. He's done his job for the day. He's slipping away from the main contenders, as is Emmanuel Magnan. And it's surprising to see him so close to the front of a stage, a mountain stage of the Tour de France. But he was one of the men who went out on the early attack with Laurent Jalabert when they formed a group of 11 men that went off the front. And after that, he survived and managed to stay in contact with the leading group. But right now, we are looking down at this group, which is slowly but surely reducing itself in numbers. And here's the first attack of the day, the first attack from the yellow jersey group.
Yes, and it wouldn't surprise me. It is, in fact, it's not Agneluto, it's one of his teammates, though, from Jean de la Tour, who's launched the attack. And this could be an interesting move. It could well be Laurent Lefebvre who's gone clear here. As they start the moves now, they won't react to him. Lefebvre is on his way.
You can see how US Postal have certainly not responded at all to that attack coming out of the front. They're not worried about these lesser riders moving off the front. They are waiting to see if the attacks will come from Santiago Botero or Oscar Sevilla or even Roberto Laiseca. I don't think, in fact, Armstrong wants to set a hard tempo to, in fact, pull back the Frenchman Laurent Jalabert. He will be looking at the men who stand a serious chance of beating him in the overall classification. Laurent Lefebvre off the front there for Jean de la Tour. But you can see there's no panic at all in the main group. They're not worried, and Georgi Hincapie swings off there. The job's being done. It's a question now of just trying to get his huge carcass up to the summit.
Well, he'll hang on well. David Etcheberry has just been dropped from the peloton after his attacks earlier on today. He was second over the Col d'Aubisque. Laurent Lefebvre will keep the job in hand, try and get away from them. They won't directly chase him down. He's not a future winner of the Tour de France this year. But Armstrong sent up Rubiera now to lift the pace. And there he is down there. It's beginning to get a little select group at the head of the bunch. Also down there too is Andrei Kivalev, as Rubiera is setting the pace. This is back to the front now, as we see Laurent Jalabert look over his shoulder, trying to stay away, still looking very good. That face doesn't often give the game away. I thought he was telling us earlier he was finished, but now he's okay. This is David Etcheberry. He's been dropped and he's trying to pick his way through groups. George Hincapie going off on the right. I think caught a glimpse there too, sadly, of Bobby Julich going off the back. There he is, Julich just in front.
Well, Julich was hoping to ride well in this year's Tour de France, and once again in the mountains having a hard time following the tempo set on the front by his former teammates. Michael Bogard going out of the back for the second time and probably the last time. Dario Frigo as well going off the back right now.
Ouch.
This is when it's really starting to get grippy. You see here one or two Once riders coming off the back as well. Jörg Jaks, he's done a lot of work for the team earlier on. He's been off the back looking after his teammate Yoshiba Belocchi. Now this is a bit of a surprise. This is Menchov, the leader of Ibernesto.com.
He's also cracked as we speak now. Andrei Kivalev, fourth last year, is still in this. I see Laurent Lefebvre has been picked up. He's on the right of our picture. This, what have we got? Maybe 15, 20 very select riders now. And Levi Leipheimer is still there on the left of our picture with the balding pate. 2:25 is the gap now to Laurent Jalabert. I feel inclined to cheer for Jalabert right now because we'd love him to win.
He deserves to win after attacking from the very start. In fact, he's only 5.9 kilometers from the finish. The tempo on the front there is being done by Lance Armstrong's faithful lieutenant there, Chechu Rubiera. Rubiera setting a very nice pace on the front. No problem at all for Armstrong. He doesn't seem to be worried about pulling back Laurent Jalabert. Yoshiba Belocchi is on his tail. The yellow jersey still in very fine contact in fourth place. Igor Gonzalez de Galliano. They are all there for the moment. All of the big names are there, but it seems as if Christophe Moreau is going to the back, the green jersey of Crédit Agricole, in a bit of serious difficulty.
Well, pace-making being done by postal Spanish riders here are stretching this group to an awful long line now. Looking down at the group there, the yellow jersey. still marking his man, and Balocchi on his shoulder. As we see now the two Spanish riders lining up behind Lance Armstrong. It looks now like the end of Francis Moreau here. He's also been dropped by the group. And also going off is Zabeldia of Euskaltel Euskadi. We'll get back up to the leaders very shortly, but they are thinning out rather rapidly just at the moment. David Miller sadly has gone as well. He was in the group, he's been dropped. And if Ivan Basso, still in the group, gets more than 2 minutes, he'll be the next candidate for the leaders' white jersey.
Well, going out of the back, this is Jose Javier Gomez from Kelme. Also going out of the back was the Russian leader of AG2R, Bocharov. So some big names going out of the back. That's a very prized souvenir. Armstrong taking off his hat and throwing it into the crowd. Now, that'll be worth a few bob in a couple of years' time.
Well, we're now hearing that Tyler Hamilton has cracked as well and is being left. We might get a shot of that. Also, Richard Veronk is in trouble. So the pace that's being set by the US Postal Domestics here from Spain is crippling the rest of the race. But it's noted, Paul, that the two riders from Spain who said they're going to give trouble to Armstrong are still riding right at the front.
They're still there and they're still waiting for an opportunity. Roberto Laiseca did not look very comfortable either just a few moments ago. He would be the big hope for the crowd here, who are resplendent in their orange jerseys and shirts, and they were hoping that it was going to be the day for Euskaltel Euskadi. You can see the Basque flag at the side of the road there, but I think the majority of the crowd here are willing this man on to win, because this man has done an unbelievable exploit today.
Well, there's a puncture, and it sounds like Botero has got a problem in this group. We might see him, but I believe he is stopped by the roadside. We're looking for him as we see Moreau here fight his way back up to the tail of this group. We will look for him on the right, I think, as we go through. There's the car stopped. Now he must be under shadow of the car, I think. But it's certainly trouble for Botero, Paul, as we now see this rider press on relentless. Another kilometre ticked off as the Spanish people here cheering on a Frenchman.
Well, that's a tough move there for Botero to try and pull himself back into the race. Richard Virenque also in difficulty right now. If we look down there, you can see there in the group is Sevilla. We're looking further back, and there's the yellow jersey. The yellow jersey has cracked, and he is slipping away from the lead. Look at the face on Sevilla. They need to stay in this group. Armstrong talking to his troops there, Phil. He's egging them on. He's encouraging them. He's telling them exactly what tempo to set.
Well, wait for it. In the next 3 minutes, Lance Armstrong will be in the maillot jaune of the Tour de France. Igor Gonzalez de Galdeano started the day 26 seconds ahead, and he's losing it fast with, surprisingly, Francisco Mancebo is in that group as well. Manolo Sainz always said his man was on the left there, Balocchi, and Balocchi is still riding. But they're slowly becoming outnumbered. A great ride being done as well by Andrei Kivilev of Kazakhstan. Still in there.
He's still in there, still surviving. Mancebo is here. The yellow jersey has to survive. Now it's Roberto Heras. Heras has come to the front. This man is the big mate of Lance Armstrong. His teammates have done an unbelievable job at 5 kilometres to go. Leipheimer is no longer there. They're 5 kilometres to go to the summit. Andrei Kivilev looks as if he's going to crack now. The communist rider on the left-hand side. Roberto Heras is lifting up the pace for Armstrong, who slowly but surely is riding his way towards the yellow jersey.
And this is destruction time now. Only one rider is left. One rider on Once versus what's left of US Postal. This is a show of defiance now. Balocchi is hanging on to the coattails of Armstrong as Roberto Heras is just lifting the pace too much for everyone except 2 men. So it's one-on-one, Paul, and Balocchi is the only man able to hang on to Armstrong.
Well, it looks like the Once Armada is crumbling. There is Levi Leipheimer, the leader of the Rabobank team. He can see the yellow jersey, Igor Gonzalez de Galdeano. Gonzalez de Galdeano knows that his chances are slipping away this afternoon, and Manolo Sainz was right to assume that Yoshiba Balocchi should be the lone leader. Just for the record book, this man at 5 kilometres to go had a 1 minute and 20 seconds advantage over this chasing group of Armstrong, Heras and Yoshiba Balocchi. Armstrong, though, has got
got an unbelievable team of climbers. What a brilliant job done by Chechu Rubiera and then taken over by Roberto Heras. He's got a huge bandage on his right calf muscle there, but he's riding a great tempo for Lance today. They are now just 56 seconds down on Laurent Jalabert, and even Belocchi looks to be having some difficulty to stay on the tail wheel there of Armstrong.
The first day in the mountains, and Armstrong is all over this race again. Less than a minute now to catching Laurent Jalabert. I don't think he can survive, but at least the three coming up are not going to wipe him out of the leaderboard entirely. He surely can hang on to something on this great day of racing. Armstrong checking in there with Brunel too. I think he probably wants to know where's the yellow jersey right now, as Heras does all of the work for his teammates, allowing Armstrong the option here to sprint clear when he wants to. He is riding this event so cool.
He is very cool, talking to Johan Brunel all the time. Brunel talking to his man, slowly but surely explaining just exactly what the gap is. Right now, all Igor Gonzalez de Galdiano can do is ride his personal time trial to the finish and hope that he conserve 26 seconds. I don't think he will right now. Laurent Jalabert is hoping that he can conserve the remainder of his advantage, which is down to 38 seconds. It's such a pity for this man. He's put in a brilliant battle today, and he's going to go through exactly the same scenario as he went through on the Plata Day last year. He's going to see Lance Armstrong coming forward, this time not alone, but this time he will be with Roberto Heras and Yoshiba Belocchi. They're pulling all of the cars out of the gap right now, because on his tail is Lance Armstrong.
They are there. They can see this man at 4 kilometers. Armstrong, Belocchi looks as though he's under pressure, but he's hanging on. Heras takes a good look at the man from his own country here as he pulls an American to the lead in the Tour de France. Inside 4 kilometers now. Down the gap is 26 seconds. This man looks here as though he's just gone through the shower as the perspiration tumbles off his face. Igor Gonzalez de Galdiano with the other American, Levi Leipheimer, right behind him. They're going to be still high on the overall classification, but they are going to be scared so much of what will come tomorrow from this man, Lance Armstrong.
I've never seen a man chat so much with his team manager at a situation like this. At the moment, he's calm and collected. He's just riding a very sensible race. He's using his teammate. And this year, Roberto Heras is going to be absolutely superb. Last year, he had a hard time coming through the mountains. He was plagued by a tendonitis. But this year, we are looking at a very good and strong Roberto Heras. He is going to be a huge ally for Lance Armstrong in the mountains. Jalabert looks over his shoulders. He knows what is happening right now, and he has taken a serious blow to his morale. He thought for a few moments, I think, he was going to win this stage. He's got himself a lot of points in the King of the Mountains competition, but he was hoping to win the first Pyrenean stage of this year's Tour de France.
Well, as they approach him, the yellow jersey is now a full minute behind Lance Armstrong, Belocchi and Heras. And so Belocchi, who started a minute 23 behind his teammate, is now climbing into second place in the Tour de France. Armstrong undoubtedly clear for yellow.
When you crack on a climb like this, you blow to absolute smithereens, and that's exactly what's happened to Igor Gonzalez de Galdiano. He has worn the yellow jersey now, Phil, since the team time trial. The pressure of wearing the yellow jersey on your shoulders is unbelievable. The press want to talk to you every day. You can't sleep at night, and right now it has been taken away from his shoulders. They have now caught Laurent Jalabert. There are 4 riders at the front of the race. I wonder if Laurent Jalabert has got enough left in his body just to try and stay with Armstrong. Heras is setting the tempo there. There's a Lone Star flag at the side of the road, and Armstrong quite content, Phil, just to sit there and let Heras do the pacemaking.
There is nothing to gain at the moment for Belocchi even attempting to attack Armstrong, even if he can. Levi Leipheimer being tailed by the Maillot Jaune group here, which is still gathering strength as riders join Igor Gonzalez de Galdiano, but now timed at 1 minute 10 seconds. Iva Kivilev is the rider on the left of our picture there, and rider number 31 is Oscar Sevilla, but Patero has not recovered from that problem he had down the road. Most unfortunate for the Colombian. And Jalabert has also cracked. Let's hope he can hang on for 4th place.
Look at his face. That really tells a picture. He thought for a few moments he could hang on to the train of Armstrong, Heras and Sevilla. He couldn't do that, but this man was attacking from the very first kilometers of today's stage. Roberto Heras on the front is doing the superb job for Lance Armstrong, pacing him up this climb. Armstrong has built himself a magnificent team for the Tour de France. His team, when they first came to the Tour, were criticised for not being strong. Right now, I think they've got the advantage over Once, who thought they were the strongest team on block, to take on the Texan.
Well, it has been a demonstration beyond belief here. We've always thought Armstrong was riding a calculated tour. Now he's proved it. He's still riding a calculated tour. He's riding under instructions from his manager, not wasting his energy. He doesn't need to apply any more pressure. He may never go to the front today except to win the stage, because he's let his team gain all the time for him. And now this man, Heras, has been worth his weight in gold. They're saying that the Group Maillot Jaune, well, it's coming back. It was 1:10, it's now 49 seconds, so it may be clawing its way back. Armstrong is conserving energy here as best he can for the big day tomorrow.
Well, another time check coming in off race radio, 57 seconds. I think I'm more inclined to believe the 57 seconds, because this man is going backwards. There's no way, looking at him, he is coming forwards to the group of Armstrong. Armstrong's group looks strong. Look at the face. This man thought he could hold on to Armstrong maybe for one more day, but he's having to relinquish leadership of his team to Yoshiba Bolocchi, who is just managing to survive here with Lance Armstrong and Roberto Heras. But even Bolocchi seems to be having a hard time staying on the wheel of the man setting an unbelievable pace on the front, Roberto Heras, wearing number 3.
2-1 the odds now. 2 US Postals against the Once rider. He's hopelessly outnumbered here. Armstrong hasn't used any of his energy yet in making the pace up this climb. It would not surprise me though if Bolocchi tries one cheeky attack just to try and steal the stage for a psychological result, but somehow I can't see Lance allowing it.
I don't think I want to get Lance very angry at this stage of the game, and I think if he were to launch an attack, we would see a huge, violent counter-attack coming for Armstrong. For the moment, he is quite content to ride along in the slipstream of his teammate. He may well even try and offer the victory to his teammate at the end of the day, but the most important thing for these guys is for the victory to be in the US Postal camp. Bolocchi is sitting there, and he has not got any ability at all to attack. He's quite happy to be there. The American flags are mixing it in with the Basque flags at the side of the road, and it looks as if Bolocchi is having a hard time for actually staying on the wheel of the 2 men from the US Postal Service team.
Go Lance on the torso of that man that just ran past. It's pick your hero and choose here, because the Americans being knocked out by the supporters of Bolocchi as they run alongside him. So it's Spain and America as we race across French roads, and this is a tremendous atmosphere here in the Tour de France. And this poor man, Laurent Jalabert, steadily going back. He's 10 seconds back as we speak, but still riding this mountain in 4th place.
Well, this is what happens when the lights go out. Poor old Laurent Jalabert, he was riding on morale before. He still felt that he had the possibility of a win. And once you realise that you are no longer going to win, all the lights and sound goes out completely. This is the group of the second heads of state of the Tour de France this year. Raimundas Rumsas is in the blue and pink for Lampre on the front there. The yellow jersey, Igor Gonzalez de Galdiano. In there as well is Jose Acevedo for Once. It's the team of the men who are going to be the second-place runners, I think, in this year's Tour de France, because US Postal Service may well be climbing well up in the overall standings, and Roberto Heras is doing himself a pretty nice job as well today.
64 seconds the gap now. It'll be 1.5 before we get to the summit, I'm sure of that, as this rider, Roberto Heras, is just storming up this mountain for Armstrong, who still doesn't look as though he's made any effort whatsoever. Underneath the canopies now, as we approach the village of La Mongie, these canopies to stop the rock slides and the snow in the winter, to keep them off the road, as these riders now go through a corridor of orange shirts of the people from the Basque area of Spain, all shouting for the man in pink, while it's the man in blue who is the coolest operator on the Tour this day.
Well, right now they're into the barriers. This is the safest part of the course. Right now, a few moments ago, it was just a corridor of people and noise for Armstrong, Heras and Yoshiba Boloki. This is Laurent Jalabert. By the way, he's around about 51 seconds behind. Ivan Basso, in fact, counter-attacked the yellow jersey group a few moments ago, and he has caught Jalabert. He is in 4th place on the road.
Well, this is the next white jersey after David Miller, I think, in the Tour. This is another superb performance, but it's all being acted behind the real centre stage. Here it is. That I suppose you noticed then that was a terrific acceleration that came from Heras. I thought he cracked Boloki, but Boloki has come back on. Armstrong, we're not under pressure. He's still waiting. He's waiting to see the banner, I think, for the finish, and then I expect him to shoot away. Now, where does Laurent Jalabert find these legs from? He's hung on to Basso, and he's hanging on to 5th place on the stage. This is the group behind of the Maillot Jaune. He's lost the lead now as we head up with the leaders inside 1 kilometre to go as we come up towards that kite. 68 seconds to the Maillot Jaune. Now, Paul, where does Lance launch the finishing attack?
Well, I think he's going to wait until the very last moment. He said he didn't want to do anything dramatic today. He just wanted to see how everybody else reacted. The attacks never came from the climbers on the first day in the mountains. Men like Roberto Laiseca were in serious difficulty. The most unfortunate man there really is Santiago Botero, who had a crash. He had a puncture at the side of the road there, but right now the answer is I think Armstrong will wait until the last 400 or 500 meters. Gonzalez de Galdeano in serious difficulty now. He can't stay with the other contenders, and Acevedo staying alongside him, trying to keep him in a top 5 position.
7 days in yellow. It's all but a dream now for Igor Gonzalez de Galdeano, as we see the only man likely to challenge Armstrong now, Yoshiba Boloki, hanging on. It's sad when you see the Maillot Jaune in trouble, but he's had a good run for his money. He was always seen as the man who one day would lose that yellow jersey. As we see now, Jalabert being swept up by this rather large group of riders. Jalabert has gone to the limit today, and I don't think there's anything more left in the tank. Back to Roberto Heras, still dragging his captain to the summit, and Boloki still hanging on to the Express.
Well, this has been an unbelievable piece of teamwork by Roberto Heras in 1st position there right now, and Armstrong so far has not had to make an effort himself at all. He has a brilliant team here at the Tour de France. All 9 riders are still there and intact. He now is counting on one of the best climbers in the world, Roberto Heras, a winner of the Vuelta Espana. He now is just pacing Armstrong up to the finish. Armstrong looks across the road to force Boloki to come to the front. They want to make sure they don't get caught out by a last-minute attack by the Spaniard.
Sorry a little bit about the pictures there, but we're back to normal now. Armstrong is just manoeuvring Boloki into number 2 position to ride him out of the race in the race for 1st place. He has watched Boloki all day long. He's moved over, made him go 2nd, up behind Heras, and he's waiting till he sees the moment to attack, and he's going to win by 2 seconds.
He's going to wait and see if Boloki attacks first. But there is the time to the Maillot Jaune. The yellow jersey at the start of the day is 1 minute and 23 seconds behind right now.
Exactly what Boloki was behind the Maillot Jaune this morning, 1 minute and 23. So Boloki climbs to 2nd overall in the Tour de France, but he is still going to be 1 minute 23 behind the new leader, I would think. Sorry, a few seconds behind the new leader, Lance Armstrong. Now, inside of the line, Boloki's still thinking of a win here. He's still proud enough to say, look, this is a finish in front of Spanish people, and he's going to give it his best shot. Heras, I think Armstrong would have given this stage to Heras if only the other man wasn't there.
He would love to give this victory to Roberto Heras, but that's not the scenario. Obviously, Yoshiba Boloki didn't read the script at the start of the day, and this is the move by Armstrong. He's going for the win.
Well, he's dug deep. He looks over his shoulder. There's really not a strong enough reaction from Boloki. Boloki is desperate here, but what a good fight he has put up. But now it's everything he's got unleashed in those legs, and this is now his 13th stage win in a Tour de France, more than any other current cyclist on the circuit. Armstrong wins the day, claims again another first on the first day in the mountains, and waiting for him the Golden Fleece. He's the new leader of the Tour.
but it was hard. Look how hard it was for Bellocchi over the last 50 meters. He is cracked, I think, more psychologically than anything else. This man waited till the last possible moment. His teammate Roberto Heras will have crossed the line in third position, but the yellow jersey today has completely and utterly crumbled at the side of the road.
As we look here at the power of Lance Armstrong, the only time I think he seriously turned a pedal in anger was in the last 100 meters today. His team won the stage for him. Lance just finished it off in the best possible tradition.
Well, a finish that was supposed to be easy has certainly caused some serious time differences, and Armstrong didn't really race as hard as he could have done, I think. This is Andrei Kivilev, and the yellow jersey is in the finishing straight right now with Laurent Jalabert, Jose Acevedo and Igor Gonzalez de Galdeano.
Last year's fourth-place finisher, over a minute and a half behind on the climb. A great cheer for Jalabert as he comes in at a minute 47, and the yellow jersey has conceded virtually 2 minutes as he crosses the line today.
And as you can see from the caption, Lance Armstrong took 7 seconds off Yoseba Bellocchi in the space of about 40 metres at the finish line. He was second, ahead of Roberto Heras, who did all the pacemaking. Ivan Basso, the young Italian rider, climbed impressively to finish 7th, with Igor Gonzalez de Galdeano 11th, losing 1 minute 54 and the yellow jersey. Well, we might have seen it coming, but it was no less impressive for that. Lance Armstrong launching a decisive attack on the first big day in the mountains for the 4th year running, and taking his 13th step.
We talked about trying to win the stage and possibly taking the jersey, but it was never a moment where we said, okay, let's go. I mean, the team just started pulling at the bottom of the Obisque, and everybody was great today. And Floyd had a little bit of a problem, but the team was super. The race is still open, you know, and this is the Tour, so if you have a bad day, you lose, you know, anywhere from 2 to 20 minutes in one stage. So you have to stay on top of it, and it's still open.
And just to round off the first day in the mountains, Lance is also up to 3rd in the King of the Mountains competition. Patrice Algon leads it, by the way, and if you're wondering how, it's because Algon built up most of his points over small climbs in the first week. After day 1 in the Pyrenees, day 2 though was twice as tough. It was a free helicopter ride on offer to anyone brave enough to take it on. And the Tour's first Pyrenean stage may have looked hard, but only until you turn the page of the official race guide and clock today's stage. 5 vicious climbs spread over 195 kilometres and finishing with the worst of the lot, up here to Plateau de Bay at an altitude of almost 1,800 metres. Before the gradient kicked in though, there was some early sprint action, and Robbie McEwen took it ahead of Eric Zabel to cut the German's lead in the green jersey competition to just 1 point. For the second day running, Laurent Jalabert chanced his leg and was first over the second climb of the day. Behind him, the peloton paid rolling tribute at the memorial to Fabio Casartelli, the young Italian rider who died in a crash there in 1995. The mood of respect didn't last long though, as Christophe Moreau and Carlos Sash got involved in a Franco-Spanish debate about the European single currency. As we join the race, Jalabert has been joined by Laurent Dufaux of Jean de la Tour and Once's Isidro Nozal. There's 14 kilometres to go, and the chase is on.
These 3 leaders right now, Phil, have an advantage of 2 minutes and 27 seconds, and here's the move coming from Once. Well, Armstrong has not panicked at all right now. In fact, I would think Roberto Heras is riding in 3rd or 4th position there, just behind Armstrong. He will wait until the last possible moment. This is Chechu Rubiera, as Lance likes to call him. Jose Luis Rubiera on the front. Heras is there on the left-hand side. Yoseba Bellocchi is very close in the pink jersey. The blue and pink jersey is Raimundas Rumsas. Now, he is very high in the overall standings at 4th place. At the back, there is Laurent Brochard. On the left-hand side there is Dario Frigo. A lot of men are suffering.
And as we go now to an attack by Laurent Jalabert at the front, he knows they are coming. The last time check was a minute 50, and he's had to go. Now, is he going to be wiped away in sight of the finish again? But he's going to give it his best shot.
What a tough bike rider this is. He could see the other guys were weakening. He could feel that the time was slowly but surely coming back from the main field to himself, so he decides to go out alone. It'll be a hard call for him to survive, and it depends just exactly how much reserves he's got in those big thighs of his. It's 1:51 back to the yellow jersey group, which is being led by Lance Armstrong's teammate, Jose Luis Rubiera.
This is the pain now at the back of the course here. And once again, we are seeing riders crack wide open. Looks like Lyseca here as well. The rider he's passing is Ivan Basso in the white jersey. So the three leaders are split now by half a minute, and the Armstrong group a little more than 1 minute behind. And there is the situation with Oscar Sevilla dangling at the back and suffering to try and hang on. This is the man who won the Tour of Spain, or finished second rather in the Tour of Spain last year, lost it on the final day, currently in 13th place overall, and just trying to hold on to a very select group of bike riders here.
They are now just 14 seconds behind Laurent Jalabert. In the next half a kilometre, I expect they will see the Frenchman and rejoin him after he led this race for, again, almost 150 kilometres.
12 the just men, 12 and a half if we look back, because Sevilla keeps coming in and going back again. Poor Laurent Jalabert, for the second time in as many days, is going to look over his shoulder and see Lance Armstrong. He can't believe his luck. He's almost given us the same stroke of his head as he did last time. Another brilliant day for Jalabert. Absolutely superb to go out on the attack for 2 days, like he has done. He'll be rewarded this time at the finish with the lead in the King of the Mountains, but he really desperately wanted that stage win. In the distance, Oscar Sevilla. On the front is Jose Luis Ribiera, the teammate of Armstrong. Armstrong looking for his chance, I feel, here, as the pedal revs are lifted again, the gaps open once more. This mountain is relentless now, and it's 9 kilometres still of it to go.
Tyler Hamilton now just tapping Laurent Jalabert on the shoulders to say, well done, good ride, we nearly pulled it off. And Christophe Moreau, who we will have to wait to see what the referee's decision is tonight as to whether or not he will receive punishment for punching Carlos Sastre in the face. Look at the pedaling action there of Ribiera on the front, just sitting tucked in nice and calmly behind him. I think they're actually picking up the pace just a little bit here. In fact, you can see this is Ribiera's kick now towards the steeper part of the climb. He's lifting the pace. I think they want to try and put time between themselves and one or two other riders. That popped Andrei Kivilev off the back immediately, as well as Stéphane Goubert.
Well, Goubert certainly couldn't lift it up one more notch, doing a great ride. There he is, but Andrei Kivilev will be upset. He's going to have to dig deep, this rider from Kazakhstan, because the order's gone out from Lance to just lift the revs and see what happens. And he's reduced it by 2 riders, and here goes Heras. Now, is it pacemaking or an attack? And it might be... I'm not sure what it is. I think it's pacemaking, yeah.
Well, it's put this man into serious difficulty as well, because they're literally blowing all of the Once riders away. Serrano now has popped off the back of the group. Roberto Heras has come forward right now. Yoshiba Belocchi is surviving, and Igor Gonzalez de Galdiano has now gone. We are going down to the same trio as yesterday: Roberto Heras, Lance Armstrong and Yoshiba Belocchi. But today they may well try and work one over on Yoshiba Belocchi, because I think this is going to be a serious show of defiance by the man on the front, Roberto Heras. He wants to drag his team leader away, and his team leader in the yellow jersey would like to give him a victory.
Just under 7 kilometres to go, and we have the same 3 riders, but Armstrong has lifted the revs. It's up to Belocchi. Belocchi must go round Heras or lose ground. He's got to come round him now, and I don't know whether he can. Armstrong has made his move. Now, he had planned to attack here when he reconnoitred the area in May. We thought he might have changed his idea, because he had the lead already yesterday, when that to him was a little bit of a surprise. Belocchi has got to come, otherwise the Tour de France for him has ended right now.
But Belocchi's trying to survive. He's trying to keep in contact with Armstrong, but look out for Heras. And in fact, Armstrong doesn't look to me right now to be going full bore. He's waiting to see. He's tempting Belocchi to try and close the gap down to him. And look at this. I have a feeling any moment now we will see an acceleration come from Roberto Heras, because Heras is very comfortable on the wheel of Belocchi. Armstrong right now is not opening up the big gap, and Heras is very happy just to stay there.
Well, that's his job, to sit on Yoshiba Belocchi for the last 2 years, 3rd overall in Paris in the Tour de France, currently lying in 2nd position. But now all Lance Armstrong is doing is repeating what he did in May by himself, and that's go out for a day's training. He's just sitting here pedaling like he's taught himself, The only good thing is it's a little bit warmer than it was in May. It was in the -Celsius temperatures then when he got to the top. Today it's around about 30 degrees Celsius.
Well, this was the hero of the day, and look at that time gap already. Laurent Jalabert is over 3 minutes behind Lance Armstrong at the front of the bike race.
Well, Laurent Jalabert won't be at all interested in what is happening at the front of the race right now. Now, a little show of defiance by Belocchi, and I think that's all it was, because I don't think he can pick his pace up to go back up to alongside Lance Armstrong. Armstrong out of the saddle all of the time at the moment, keeping this perpetual cadence going that destroys the bike riders around the world. And once he knows he's beaten him, he'll settle back into his own rhythm. And in the next 5 kilometers, just how much time can he gain?
Well, you know, he doesn't even really need to do this. He's leading the bike race at the start of the day by 1 minute and 12 seconds. What he's doing is riding away from the rest of the field, stamping his authority on the Tour de France today. Put all this into perspective, by the way, Phil. Laurent Jalabert has lost 6 minutes on the climb so far, and this is the group behind, and look how Portero is suffering. He's up alongside Serrano and Igor Gonzalez de Galdiano, the man who led this race for such a long time. These men now can only hope to survive. There is Raimundas Rumsas on the far side, and Armstrong is slowly but surely opening the gap between himself and Yoshiba Belocchi and his own teammate Roberto Heras.
Rumsas looking back here to Serrano. Is anybody going to help me? Gonzalez de Galdiano. These riders are together with Rumsas. Nobody going to help out here. Portero is there. 4 great mountain climbers rather, and they can't get near this man, who often tells us he's not a climber. It's a different type of racing as far as he's concerned. He just pedals quickly and rides them all off his wheel. Richard Virenque looks as though he's just come out of the shower right now. 5 times a winner of the King of the Mountains. Take a bottle and receive that little professional foul, a little push off the offering hand there from the director sporting. But nobody's going to complain about that. This is a vicious day in the Tour de France, as Armstrong now, through the exhaustions of our helicopter and the shimmering heat of a hot day on the Plateau de Bataille, is now going to put his name in the record books. The only other man who's won here is Marco Pantani.
Well, I think that was a correct slip of the tongue you made there, Phil, because Plateau de Bataille means the plateau of the battle, and that's exactly what's happening right now. This is a huge battle that Armstrong is delivering to himself and to the men who expect to outthrone him. And look at that, the gap is now becoming much more serious. It's slowly but surely opening. It's now hovering at 15 seconds. Roberto Heras is just sitting there for the moment, waiting to see if Belocchi will fail. And if Belocchi does fail, I wouldn't be surprised to see Roberto Heras launching the counter-attack. It's still an awful long way to go to the summit for Lance Armstrong right now, and he still has the frame of mind to sit up, breathe easily as he can, and take the drinks on board.
Well, in effect, Heras is 5 full minutes of taking second place in the Tour de France. At the moment, he's not in a position to do much about it as we go under 5 kilometers. Yes, still 5 kilometers to go. But there is a real chance, people already talking of a US Postal 1-2 in this year's race, as we switch back to the fatigue of Laurent Jalabert, because in the mountains still to come, this is a very tough tour now. A relatively calmer day tomorrow. Then we climb at the Giant of Provence, Mont Ventoux, and then we have 2 brutes, La Plagne and Les Deux Alpes in the Alps, before we go on to the final time trial, and then the finish in Paris. Still an awful lot of racing to go, but there is nobody does not believe that Armstrong is not now going to win this tour by less than 10 minutes.
Face there on Yoshiba Belocchi, he's really suffering. Armstrong is not opening up a huge gap at all. In fact, it's just crept up a couple more seconds to 17 seconds, and Belocchi is basically riding his individual time trial right now. He is trying to limit his losses on the Texan, who's gone off on the hope of another lone victory, just like the victory he got himself yesterday. He would love to have offered that victory to the man who wears number 3 there, Roberto Heras, but what an incredible pedaling action of this man, who, after his testicular cancer, Phil, lost himself 20 pounds in body weight, but he retained nearly all of the strength that he had. Heras has gone. Heras has attacked, and now this is what they were waiting for. This is, I think, why Armstrong hasn't opened up the gap at all. He was looking at the Spaniard who was in front of him. Look at this. He waited to see Belocchi suffering, and he went straight over the top of him. This was the strongest man of the race yesterday, and very quickly Armstrong will get that information from Johan Bruneel. I think it'll be 1-2 tonight.
He will wait. Once he knows he has cracked Belocchi, he will wait for Heras, and he will give him the stage as a present from yesterday. That would be the form, I would think, of the team, and it's working out to perfection. Now, this little climber from Spain, magnificent yesterday, the outstanding man on the mountain, is now flying towards his captain.
But what a professional. He looked over his shoulder to make sure that he had a very good gap between himself and Yoshiba Belocchi, because he would not want at all to drag up Armstrong's competitor up to the wheel of the man who wears number 1. In a few moments' time, Armstrong will certainly get that information from Johan Bruneel. He will lift his pedaling action just a small amount, and I think he has done that right now, and he will very shortly be with Armstrong, and what a sight that will be.
Well, the American flag is waving there for this brilliant athlete. Once given a 20% chance of life because of a cancer, he's recovered and returned to win the Tour de France 3 times, and no one will give you odds against him winning it a 4th. Here we are in the first mountain stretch of this year's race, the Pyrenees. Little Roberto Heras, Lance selected him, handpicked him, brought him to the team to help him in the mountains. Now he's going to wait for him, and I think will give him the stage win, because yesterday, he says, Heras was simply fantastic, and if he could have let him win yesterday, he would have done. But it was too dangerous, because Yoshiba Belocchi was right there as well. Now Armstrong keeps the revs up, but he knows the little man from Spain will pedal just as quickly as he can as we head towards the summit of the Plateau de Bay. And I think, I've lost count now, we're looking for a 4-kilometre banner. Yes, we are. 4 kilometres to go for Lance Armstrong. The clock will start now on Roberto Heras.
Well, they're coming out of the very steep part of the climb right now. There's the 4-kilometre banner that Armstrong went under a few moments ago. And here is Roberto Heras. What a beautiful pedaling action. This man is a brilliant little climber, and one day he too may win the Tour de France. He came alongside Lance Armstrong to learn, to try and improve his time trialling ability. But Belocchi is also making a pretty smart recovery here too. He is inside that gap as well. 12 seconds to Roberto Heras. They are on the false flat part of this course right now. This is the course, the part of the course where you can get the big gear in and start ticking it over. And you can see there Belocchi changing up the gears.
Well, this is the plateau bit of the climb now, and Armstrong knows he's coming. He looked over his shoulder. There are the gaps, 13 seconds and 25, as Lance Armstrong now just keeps his rhythm going. He would dearly love Heras to come alongside him and say thanks for everything you've done for 2 days for me in the mountains, and he's given him a brilliant lead overall now. He'll be heading out to at least 1.5 minutes in the classification tonight, unless Belocchi recovers on this false flat. Heras looking over his shoulder to see. If Belocchi catches him, of course, Heras will stop working. He won't continue to take him up to the leader, and he's always checking on that. The face of the fighter, the only fighter seemingly in this year's Tour de France who believes he can have some form of combat with Armstrong.
The gaps are very close indeed right now. Armstrong leads Roberto Heras by 14 seconds. In fact, Heras is slipping back, and it's then just 12 seconds to Yoshiba Belocchi. If Heras doesn't close the gap on Armstrong right this moment, it's going to be Armstrong riding on his own towards victory. Armstrong really dare not slow down too much, because he needs to build his advantage over Belocchi, his advantage which was at the start of today 1 minute and 12 seconds.
There's a small time bonus on the line as well, which will push him out even further. But the other two will also get time bonuses, which won't completely nullify the escape. But Armstrong himself now just doing all he need to increase his lead in today's stage of the Tour de France. There is just those 10 seconds between the two Spanish riders. Belocchi looks to me as though he's coming back, because Heras has decided he can't reach his captain.
I think he was told to sit up there, because just at the moment when the US Postal Service team car went by, I think that was the moment he ceased to chase the front man, Lance Armstrong. He will now wait for Yoshiba Belocchi, and I think allow Yoshiba Belocchi to set the tempo behind. What was happening there was that Heras was caught in between the two men, and he was acting as a carrot, and he was the man that in fact Yoshiba Belocchi was aiming at to catch, and that was encouraging the man who was in third place on the road.
Far down the slopes now, the ailing figure of Laurent Jalabert, once the leader. As we now see at 3 kilometers to go, Heras has turned off. Belocchi is coming back, so Heras will now sit behind him and wait, and maybe choose to sprint to second place. Armstrong has been given his head now as the leader of the team to build on his overall position and to increase his lead in the Tour de France tonight. There is Roberto Heras taking now the ticket collector's position, the man who will do no work and just see everybody is on board.
Well, if this had been just a little bit steeper than it is right now, I think Roberto Heras would have made contact with Lance Armstrong. But Armstrong is on the part of the course which absolutely suits him. He can use his special power to get the bigger gear ticking over right now. And he has now started to build the big time gap over Yoshiba Belocchi. It is now 35 seconds to Heras and Belocchi right now. Heras has to play the team role. He was hoping, I think, to get himself a victory here. Coming back, this is Santiago Botero. And in fact, it looks as if the man, Igor Gonzalez de Galdiano, is also pulling himself slowly but surely back to his own teammate.
Well, trying to, as the gaps close together, because the Queen Bee of the pack has just simply flown away and left the workers on the mountainside. And here he is, just riding to glory. This will be his 14th stage win in the Tour de France. A stage win which has gone past the memorial stone to his friend Fabio Casatelli. Means a lot to Lance as he now continues his way to the top of the plateau. The kilometers are a little bit easier now as we start to level out on this beautiful mountain, covered in thousands of people today to watch an American ride to victory again.
Look at this pedalling action as well, Phil. That's the pedalling action that exactly the same as he had in the team time trial some time ago. And you look at that compared to the pedalling action of these two riders right now. It was that pedalling action that may well have lost Lance Armstrong the individual time trial around Lorient. But right now it is being used to absolute perfection on the last 2 kilometers of the climb up here to the Plateau de Bay.
2 kilometers, less than 2 miles, 1.8 to be precise for Lance Armstrong. And he's in amongst the motorbikes now, and they'll chase those away as he continues progress towards the summit, as everybody just simply goes berserk here. This is what they wanted to see. They've waited probably 8 hours and perhaps even 24 for those that came last night. The Basque flags are flying and they're waving at an American who is destroying the riders from Spain as he just rides towards the summit. A bigger lead in the Tour de France today, and no one will give you any odds now as to who will win this year's Tour de France.
Well, under the banner there of 2 kilometers to go, it's 32 seconds to these two chasers right now. But the position of their pedaling action is completely different to that of Lance Armstrong. They are now just hoping to survive. Yoshiba Belocchi is trying to increase his advantage in the second place at the Tour de France this year. And Roberto Heras is going to leap up the overall standing this afternoon. Probably he will find himself well inside of the top 10. But Armstrong, Phil, is ticking away with that most unbelievable pedaling action which he has cultivated over the years since he came back from testicular cancer. The crowd here are encouraging every bike rider. They're even encouraging Lance Armstrong at the front. Even though the majority of people here are Basque, they are recognizing what is an unbelievable athletic performance.
Well, they're shouting because they're saluting magnificent athletes here in the Pyrenees who have ridden to their maximum over some of the highest mountains this country has to offer. One man has proved he is head and shoulders above everybody else, but they'll shout even the last man home. It's a tremendous achievement by all of the riders. But what can you continue to say about this man? Superlatives simply don't describe just how he rides a bike. He comes here in the winter, he checks every inch of the road, he knows exactly where he's going to attack, exactly what he's going to do. He doesn't care who enters the Tour de France, he just sticks to the game plan.
And the game plan he's got worked out very many months in advance, and that's why he comes to look at these courses, and that's why he plans everything down to the final little minute of his attacks. Laurent Jalabert is almost 3 kilometres behind Lance Armstrong on this climb. That 3 kilometres is going to take him around about 9 minutes to cover. Armstrong right now can see the Flamme Rouge in front of him. That little bridge over the road you can see there is the last kilometre of today's stage, and Armstrong still shows no signs of weakness at all. He's pedalling absolutely perfectly. This special cadence he's managed to cultivate over the last few years is very reminiscent of the cadence in the mountains of Miguel Indurain, and the great Spaniard. He won 5 Tour de France's in a row.
Well, he's nosing away to almost a minute on the chase now. A minute added to the 1:12 he already has, plus his small time bonus on the line. He'll be not far off 2.5 minutes. It might even be nearer 3 minutes overall when we see the final situation tonight. Armstrong taking the shortest way to the summit of the plateau and building on every inch of the way. This will be his 6th win of the season, and well, I won't say it'll be the sweetest, but it'll just be another routine day for this magnificent athlete.
It reminds me of what we said very much earlier on today, Phil, you and I. Comme d'habitude, it said in the French newspapers this morning. Business as usual. That's exactly what it has been for Lance Armstrong this afternoon, and it's also what it has been for his team, who've done a magnificent job setting up this victory. Yoshiba Belocchi is the man wearing number 21 there. He's just trying to keep himself as close to as possible to Lance Armstrong this afternoon, and Armstrong's teammate there wearing number 3, Roberto Heras, again doing an absolutely superb job to set up victory number 14 for Lance Armstrong here in stages at the Tour de France.
And no one currently racing in the professional circuit has won that many stages in the Tour de France. 14 for Lance Armstrong. He'll claim his 3rd yellow jersey of the Tour, having won the prologue and his 3rd stage in this year's Tour de France. And on this sort of form, Paul, just how many stages can he win? The record, by the way, is held by Freddie Martins, and in post-war years by Freddie Martins and Eddie Merckx, 8 wins.
Well, you know, if you look at the number of mountaintop finishes that are still left to go, Lance Armstrong could probably win most of those as well. I think he may well just try and ride a much more tactical race going into the next big mountains terrain, which is going to be the Mont Ventoux and then followed by the Alps. But this is going to go down as a great victory, one that was set up perfectly by his team. He's inside 200 metres to go right now.
Lance Armstrong left no doubt in anybody's mind, the #1 bike rider, the winner of the Tour de France for the past 3 years, and he will be the world-ranked #1 by the end of this tour again, as he now races to increase his overall lead. 2 profitable days here in the Pyrenees. Yesterday it was close, 6 hours aboard that saddle, and this time a little punch in the air yesterday. It's a clear 2-arm salute today, because today he laid the foundation which will win him the Tour de France again this year.
And did you see that, Phil? 6 hours in the saddle, an average speed of only 33 kilometres an hour today. That's 19 miles an hour. That gives you an idea of just how difficult today's stage has been. Yoshiba Belocchi now is just trying to lose as little time as possible, but he's already lost himself 30 seconds on the clock on the finishing line. That added up to the bonus is 50, so it's going to be a big plummet down tonight.
Well, I wonder if Heras will make it a 1-2 for US Postal. He's itching to go over the top of him. He'll wait till he sees the line at 45 seconds the gap. Belocchi won't have the legs now. He's tried to limit his losses as a little Roberto Heras grits his teeth, drives up to the line. US Postal first and second. Heras will climb up the overall classification tonight. He might even get a separate time as he comes round to the line. A minute 2 behind, a minute 3, and probably a minute 5 for Yoshiba Belocchi, as Patero comes in after that, and Igor Gonzalez de Galeano after that.
So the same 3 riders alone at the finish for the 2nd day running, although this time Belocchi had to yield not just to Armstrong but to Heras as well. The man who started it all eventually finished 11.5 minutes down, consoled by the acclaim of the crowd and his fellow riders, and no doubt also by the fact that he's now leading the King of the Mountains competition. 24 minutes back was Eric Zabel, like Robbie McEwen, well out of the points for the stage finish, and therefore still in the green jersey by a single point. Now, here's what the stage did to the standings. Armstrong confirms his status and extends his lead. Biloki is the closest man to him, but getting further away, nearly 2.5 minutes back now. Heras is up to 7th after 2 great days riding in the mountains. David Miller slips to 74th. Two days in the Pyrenees, 2 stage wins for the defending champion. The best Spanish climber was riding on his team. Beautiful scenery, but a pretty demoralising picture for Lance Armstrong's rivals. Good afternoon. Stage 13 was a bit of a recovery day, really, to split up what might otherwise be a fatal 1-2 punch of the Pyrenees and Mont Ventoux. The scheduling was academic for Jackie Durand, mind you, because he was thrown off the race last night for using a team car to drag him up some of the climbs. The cameras didn't see it, but evidently the commissaires did. Mind you, the car can't have been going very fast because he still came in 41 minutes behind the leaders yesterday. Anyway, he's now on his way home, and lucky not to be joining him is Christophe Moreau, who the commissaires decided was the aggressor in yesterday's fight with Carlos Sash, although, to be honest, there was about as much actual fighting in it as your average Audley Harrison bout. Anyway, Moreau was given a 2-minute penalty, which, since he was 20 minutes down to start with, won't mean much to him, and Carlos Sash got 20 seconds, which seemed to confirm his view that he was the injured party.
Pues que es un señor que no tiene respeto por nadie y no merece la pena hablar de él, ¿no? No hace falta hacerle publicidad porque él solo se la hace. Pues es un corredor que siempre no tiene respeto por nadie, quiere ir siempre donde él quiere y no sabe que la carretera es para todos los corredores, ¿no? Y prefiero no hablar de este señor.
Now here's a look at the stage 13 route. 171 kilometres with 3 climbs near the start, but otherwise flat until Béziers, where there was a little kick up towards the finish line.
This is the chasing group now with Laurent Jalabert. They're 1 minute behind right now. They will just ride to the finish and hope to survive. Now this is the traffic circle I was talking about a few moments earlier, but from now onwards, Phil, it's nearly all uphill to the finish. It's not much, but after 100 miles in the saddle, it's a long climb.
And it's who is going to judge the sprint to the best. They've tried to rid each other, but it hasn't worked out. Now it is going to be a 1 dash to the line, and you've got to judge your sprint to perfection. It is a long way up this road. Echevarria is making it plainly obvious he is feeling like the wind today. He's looking at everybody. A ride on one side of the road here, forcing the attack only on the right shoulder of the riders. Lataza, by the way, at the front, only ever won 1 race in his life a couple of years ago, and he's starting the sprint. Well, that'll cost him the race because you can't lead out for the line and win. But look now at the face of Echevarria in 2nd place. Bogart is there. Brochard is dropping off the back a little bit. Miller is in 4th place. Miller's going to have to say something special here as they come over the top towards the line now. Lataza is leading out Echevarria to perfection. One Spaniard leading out the other, but they're not friends, and he realises now, and Echevarria won't go through. Miller waits widely. Take the wheel of Brochard. Yes, he does, because Laurent Brochard's seen his chance now. Miller is shoulder to shoulder as they come to the line now. Brochard is going. David Miller might finish this one off. He's won a stage in the Tour of Spain before like this. Now, can he win this one? David Miller is going to take the stage, and absolutely brilliantly done. David Miller is not the fastest sprinter in the world, but you would have thought so today. For the win for Britain in the Tour de France today, the only British rider in the race, David Miller takes the honours.
As David Echevarria now knows to his cost, Miller brilliantly outmanoeuvred the Spaniard to take the stage win, with Michael Bogard, Laurent Brochard and David Lataza making up the numbers. 10 minutes behind them, Eric Zabel and Robbie McEwen were winding up for a sprint to decide the lead in the points competition.
But now Baden Cook is going to try and take the lead, but Danilo Hondo here is coming up wondering where his teammates are. He doesn't know what to do, but the sprint is starting now, and it is where the green and the white jerseys go, and McEwen is coming on the left here. Chopped a little bit out of it. He's going to finish ahead of Zabel. It is touch and go, but I do believe that they will now be equal on points.
Well, they were, but that activated the tie-break procedure, which starts with stage wins, of which they've each got 1 apiece. McEwen, though, has been marginally better placed at the finish over the rest of the stages, so he now leads the green jersey competition by no points. As to who'll be wearing it by the end of tomorrow, though,
no predictions.
None from the race director either. Jean-Marie Leblanc was busy congratulating David Miller, who now has a road stage win to go with his prologue victory 2 years ago. The first British rider to register one since Max Chandry in 1995.
I was on a mission today. I told the team that I wanted to win today, and I knew I had to go on the first climb after like 8 kilometers, so I put myself in the front line of the start for once, and I thought, right, this is it, I'm going. And yeah, I was relaxed, but I was confident.
All right then, let's update the overall for you, although there's not much to update really because all the big names finished in the bunch. Laurent Jalabert sneaks into the top 10 courtesy of being in the break. David Miller took back 10 minutes of the 40, he lost saving his legs yesterday. There was just one climb on stage 14. Unfortunately for the riders, it was this one, Mont Ventoux. Not what you're looking for after you've already ridden 200 kilometres through the shadeless scorch of Provence. And to make things worse, they'd be able to see it long before they got to it, because Mont Ventoux dominates the landscape in Provence on the same scale that it haunts the riders' imaginations. Not a mountain that you'd want to tackle in anything less than your best physical condition, as David Miller, yesterday's stage winner, was perhaps about to find out. After his brilliantly timed sprint to the line in Béziers yesterday, David undertook a rigorous programme of rehydration, starting with a beer to help him produce the post-race urine sample and working his way through a quantity of Chateau Photo Opportunity champagne and onto wine with dinner. Not quite out of the Lance Armstrong handbook of stage celebrations, that, and it didn't look as though we'd be seeing David up the front today. In fact, unless the team sent someone to his hotel room this morning to wake him up, it looked like we might not see him at all. Anyway, quite apart from yesterday's festivities, this was a stage he was dreading, and he wasn't the only one. From Tommy Simpson's death on this climb 35 years ago to Eddie Merckx finishing the stage in an oxygen tent, Mont Ventoux is baked in history, and none of it is reassuring. For Lance Armstrong, though, the history is more recent and more personal. In 2000, the stage to Mont Ventoux was a microcosm of the whole tour. Italy's Marco Pantani continually attacking, Lance Armstrong matching his tempo, then upping it. As they approached the line together, Armstrong passed up the chance of an historic win at one of cycling's holy places and offered it to Pantani as a mark of respect to a great climber. Far from accepting gracefully, though, Pantani continued his attacks, this time in the media, and as relations between the two riders descended into war by press conference, Armstrong realised he'd given away an opportunity that may never come again. Today, of course, it has.
If I get there and in good position and I have an opportunity to win again,